The reason most wholesale deals fail isn't because the wholesaler can't find a deal. It's because they're either finding the wrong deal, or when they do find a deal, they're structuring it completely wrong. I'm Rob, and for almost 3 decades, I've been involved in more than 2,000 real estate transactions. And what I want to go over on this video today is I'm going to break down exactly why most wholesale deals never go anywhere, while the right ones get funded correctly and move across the finish line. Because not just as a lender, but as a buyer myself, we bought a lot of properties over the years. We bought a lot from home. And one thing I've always noticed, if a wholesaler were to send me a deal and it wasn't right, I could just take that and stick it in my CRN, put it on a back burner, and I would go 1, 2, 3 months later to see what happened with that deal, to see, one, if someone did buy it, who was crazy enough to pay that for it, or two, did it fall apart? And I say 9 out of 10 times, you'd go back to these wholesalers' deals that they put me on their list, and they'd email me these properties, and they would never transfer. They were just spinning their wheels, and they were never getting any traction. And this really, son, what's going wrong with these? Why are they're paying too much for these? Are they finding on-market deals? Are they trying to mark them up too much? Are they not structuring them properly? And quite honestly, it's a little bit of all of them. So let's begin by talking about where you're finding your deals. If you're a wholesaler and you're trying to put together a deal that you're going to ultimately either bring to a cash buyer or a lender, is this deal an off-market deal, or is it a deal that you found online or through the MLS? Because there's a huge difference in that. And let me explain. An off-market deal is a deal that nobody knows about. It's a house over on 123 Elm Street that is there, that an old lady passed away, her kids inherited it, and they sold it to you because of your magical marketing. It got into your phone number quick, faster than anybody else's, and you had to pass on. That is a great start to a wholesale deal. Now, a bad start to a wholesale deal is when you go on the MLS and you find a property that's listed on there. Let's just say it's listed for that magical $100,000. And you're like, wow, I've got a great idea. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to steal this thing. I'm going to pay 95 for it. And then the agent comes back and counters at 97. You're like, done, 97. And you put in there all your contingencies that you have, you know, 15 years to close on the thing, and you can walk the reason, all the other things that wholesalers are doing wrong. But they lock it in contract. Then you're taking this deal and you're saying, all right, here's this deal. And you're in your mind, you're thinking, okay, this is a $200,000 house fixed up. That could be fair. So you're like, all right, $200,000 house fixed up. I think I'm going to sell for 150. So they wanted 100 for it. You offered 95. You paid 97, and you're offering it for 150. And you're saying, look, it's worth $200,000. So now this goes out to your list that you put together, and you're trying to wholesale to a bunch of investors. So here's what the problems start hitting with. First, as a lender or as a buyer, I'm going to look at this when it hits my list. I'm going to type in 123 Elm Street into Google, the first thing I'm going to do. And I'm going to see that this house is contingent or pending from a real estate agent, and it was listed for $100,000. So I'm looking at something that I could have bought for $100,000, and now it's $150,000, and you haven't closed on it. It's a big problem. So at the same time on this. Now, most wholesalers are going to at least be savvy enough to go after things that have a long market time of maybe 180 days or months or whatever. They've given a little time of season. Hopefully, they're not going in on day one and trying to wholesale it like this and trying to lowball the people. So, as a buyer, probably not that interested. But let's pretend that now the wholesaler finds an inexperienced buyer, just like they're inexperienced, and they lock it in contract as well. So now you have the wholesaler that has this house for 97, selling it for 150 to the buyer, and he's all excited. He's like, yeah, I have got myself a great deal now. This thing's going to be worth 200,000, and I'm picking up for 150. Well, Now this guy needs the money. So that's where we come in. They're going to call us up and say, hey, Rob, could you lend on this property? Because it's clearly a very good deal. But the questions I'm going to ask are, one, how did this house sit on the market for so long at $100,000 and nobody's touching it? But now all of a sudden, you're willing to pay $150,000 for it. It's a red flag. Two, if I could have bought it for $100,000, where is this $50,000 going? Now, of course, I'm probably using some really obnoxious examples here with some big numbers, but I'm just trying to make a point. Usually, it's going to be $5,000 or $10,000 a wholesaler's trying to make, but I still want to make the point that there's a big markup on this. So you have this large spread on here that I'm going to be at the tail end of. So we're going to fund this $150,000, and then the 100,000 or the 97 is going to the seller. All the spread is going to the wholesaler. Now you have your new buyer that may or may have skin in the game. That's going to be something else we have to discuss here in a few minutes about putting skin in the game. And what is it going to take to make it worth 200 from that 150? It's easy to say, well, it could be worth $200,000. And this is where a lot of wholesalers get it wrong, is in this process, they say, yes, it needs work. It might need 20 or 30,000 or 10 or 20,000. They give this wide gross range that really doesn't make any sense. It has to make sense. The numbers have to work across the board to show that you actually have your data in order for this deal to fly. Could you imagine walking into a car dealership and you're like, wow, I'd like interior. It's going to be $2,000 or $4,000. What do you mean $2,000 or $4,000? What is leather interior going to cost me? You want to know. It's the same thing as when you're doing real estate. What is it actually going to cost? So if your seller can't tell you and your wholesaler can't tell you, as a buyer, you need to be able to tell me. Somebody has to tell me what this thing's going to cost, because all that's showing me as a lender is I have an entire train of inexperienced people here putting a deal together. So that deal is going to die. Now, going back, I'm going to rewind, go a little Pulp Fiction here where you start at the end and go back to the beginning. Let's talk about that deal that's an off-market deal that the lady passed away, gave it to her kids, and now her kids are selling it. At this point, there is no paper trail showing how much this house was listed for, how long this has been on the market. It's not showing anything about how much you could potentially be paying for it or selling it for. Now I'm going truly off of data and not off of context clues showing exactly what was happening. So that does help. And yes, I'm telling you how a lender is probably blindsided a little bit. I would see around this a little bit because I'd want to see all the paperwork, but a lot of lenders probably would not look this deep into it. So as this off-market deal comes on the line, even with these same numbers, it would probably pass the sniff test a little bit better, getting to that point saying, okay, it's a 150 house. But now we have to look at the ARV, that's the after repaired value, and the comparables on it. So if these comparables are truly 200,000, how much do I want to be into this house for? I'll bust out my handy dandy calculator here. So we like to be in, right here, the calculator, we have, let's call it $200,000 house minus 35%. That's about $130,000 is what we would like to be all in for at that point. So that 130 as a lender, that's going to be on the after repaired. So I need to see what is it going to take to get it worth $200,000. And let's just hypothetically say it's going to cost $30,000 to make it worth the $200,000. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to subtract my $30,000 out of there. And that's going to give me a $100,000 acquisition fee. So I say, what we can do is we can take that $130,000 loan. We can take $30,000 and we can extract that and put that into an escrow account. That escrow account is going to be for repairs. And that gets released upon following instructions on getting repairs done. So, for example, if you need to make it worth 200, it's going to need a bathroom, paint, carpet, and an air conditioning unit. Those line items would be on there saying that the AC unit's going to be $4,000, the bathroom's going to be $5,500, painting is going to be $7,000, and so forth. So it gets at 30,000. And as that work is completed, that money will get released, and that gets released, and now the actual house is worth 200. What that does for me as a lender is it's showing that even if we have to take this thing back, we're into it 100, it's worth 200. That money's in escrow right there as a cushion, and it's not getting released until the work is done. So it's always in line to keep that loan to value at about 65% loan to value. So as a wholesaler, if you can put all of these numbers together specifically with real comparables, with a real purchase price and everything up front, so it's a nice package, it's much more likely to get funded. But ambiguity kills a deal. When you come in and say, well, it might be worth this, it might be, costing this to fix it, and I'm paying this amount, I'm adding a bunch to it. All those complications and all those things that you can't give clear answers to are what's going to get a lender to slam the door. But when you come with a nice, clean presentation and something that actually makes sense, now it's going to actually take you across that finish line where you can get the funding that you're looking for. So if any of this didn't make sense to you for whatever reason, because I was kind of talking in hypothetical situations, which if you know me at all, I hate talking in hypotheticals. I like to talk in actual deals. I like to actually look and analyze real deals that are really getting done, because it makes it so much easier than to pick numbers from air. Then go ahead, you can reach out, you can call us, you can text us, and we'd like to go over your deal directly. Because I'll tell you what, as much as I tell you and as much as you learn, none of it is going to work unless you do.